Everybody talks about story. Story this, story that, this arc, that act, those beats, the hero's journey. People get paid a lot of money to be story analysts, editors, story fixers, producers, executives, and all of them will tell you that story is the most important thing. But here's the thing. The dumb-sounding but incredibly useful question that you have to ask and answer if you want to be smart about story. What's a story? And honestly, you might want to be a little skeptical about story expertise in general, because it might not even exist. Because if it does, and all these Hollywood and publishing execs are all so brilliant, then why do so many big movies, large novels, tank so terribly? Things that everyone are certain will succeed. And can you really say that things like King Lear, Bad Boys, The Iliad, The Epic of Gilgamesh, the TV show The Honeymooners are all the same form? That story form is really a thing that explains all these different stories? I think you can. And in this video, I'm going right down to the bedrock, right down to first principles to talk about what I think story really is and how it works. There are 4 elemental building blocks to any story: character, desire, obstacle, and action. Now, a story can include many other things in many different ways, but if you leave one of those 4 out, you don't have a story. Story is old, mind-bogglingly old, older than we are as a species. These are cave paintings, and it seems to me, at least, that they're telling a story. Do I know exactly what story? No, but tell me you don't see characters, desires, goals, and obstacles here. Now, this may be because we're inherently wired to see the world in terms of story, to orient ourselves towards goals and play out fictions in our heads so we can figure out what the best thing to do is, so that we can have higher odds of success. And in this way, story, thought, and imagination convey an evolutionary advantage. And that's all true, but I don't think we can make anything without embedding it into a story. When we think of a story, we think of a character with a desire that takes a series of actions to overcome obstacles, each one greater than the last, until the character succeeds or fails, which is something like this shape, which you may recognize as a 3 or even 5-act structure. And if you do, take a minute to feel smart about it, then forget about it, because it's useless. Just like Aristotle's definition of a story as a thing that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Because if you're a writer like me, those definitions aren't much help. They're like me asking, "Where are my keys?" and you answering, "Somewhere in North America." I mean, sure, it's true, but it's just not very helpful. Stories, at least in the modern sense, work on 2 levels at once. There's an internal story, and then there's an external story. For example, the external story of The Godfather is Michael Corleone doing what he has to protect his family. But the internal story is Michael unable to escape his identity and the dark lust for power and control that lurks inside us all. Those 2 stories, one violent and thrilling and fun to film, and the other deeply psychological and very difficult to convey, complement each other in ways that create depth and meaning in the narrative. Since we're so good at external story, especially in film, I say that a story succeeds or fails based on how well its internal component is working. I think this is something of what William Faulkner meant when he said, "Every story is about the human heart in conflict with itself." Stories hold together as an artistic whole because every important scene turns on the same value, and you could call that the theme. These are not always so easy to put into words. For The Godfather, it might be, "It's not personal, it's just business, but everything is personal." Or, "If you want justice and peace for your family, you must have power." Past this, talking about story becomes very complicated and specific to the story and medium in question. You have to take everything into account when you analyze a story. But one thing is pretty clear. We crave stories that create an increasing sense of drama, which means that the stakes and the pain and the suffering that a character will experience if they don't get what they want have to increase throughout the tale. And lastly, there's genre, which isn't, I think, properly part of a story, but rather a classification of story. A set of rules that the audience expects you to play by. It's a convention. This is a gangster movie, so as a viewer, we can expect certain things from it. I've come to believe that genre is the most important thing to understand as a writer. You don't have to give a reader exactly what they expect, but you have to understand and deal with those expectations, or you're in real trouble. This is sometimes described as giving people what they want in a whole new way. And if you want to understand a genre, you have to immerse yourself in it. Not only watch or read a lot, but also explicitly outline 3 to 5 of the major works in the genre. I'm going to make another video about outlining. There'll be a link in the description. But it almost doesn't matter what tool or technique that you use to do this. Any way that you try to classify or summarize a story will reveal its structure and conventions to you. Like heist stories. They always have an assembling the crew montage. And no matter what the score is, there's always a twist. Every thriller has a car chase, and a hero at the mercy of the villain scene. Make a list of these scenes for your chosen genre, and you're a long way towards a successful story. So what about the hero's journey? The hero's journey is a set of ideas about the meta-genre in which every story works, as put forth by Joseph Campbell. He analyzed a bunch of stories to find out what a story really was. Dan Harmon said it something like this. What's a banana? You might not be able to give a perfect definition of a banana, but you can get close, right? A banana's yellow, it's got one end with a stem, it peels in a certain way, it has a texture and a taste and a predictable way of decaying, it gets spots. And there can be a great deal of variety in individual bananas, but basically, a banana is banana-like. But if you break too many of those conventions, and it might be something, right? It might be a yellow something, but it doesn't quite work as a banana anymore. For me, the hero's journey is basically what a story is like. Now, people get tripped up because they think that every story has to have a Yoda character as a guide, or that a hero has to be on a mystical quest. But a guide can be anything. A guide can be an idea. And a quest is just the search for whatever you desire. A story is really about how people grow and change, how we deal with chaos and the unknown in our lives. Because we always have a choice. We can answer the call, endure pain and suffering, learn and become more capable, or we can metaphorically, or actually, stay home and stay the same. Which seems like a safe choice, but it never is. Because the world is always changing underneath our feet and behind the scenes. There's no hiding from chaos and our own ignorance. So for me, every story models this process of facing the unknown and bringing useful knowledge back to your people. Light out of the darkness. To be sure, a story can transmit other things, like how one should act in the world or what things are worth caring about. Novels can communicate immense psychological depth. Stories can communicate ideas of right and wrong, like fables. But fundamentally, all stories are about facing the unknown. And understanding that about stories, that the job of the hero is not to be strong or fast or smart, although it certainly helps, but is to face the unknown bravely and not give up, was not only something I wish someone told me before I wrote my first book, but is knowledge that has made the entire rest of my life better. Why does Odysseus make it home? Because he's Polymetus, the man of many ways? Because he's cunning? Because he's a great warrior? Because Athena loves him? Certainly all of those things are true, but he makes it home because he doesn't quit, because he faces the unknown bravely. Is your life particularly difficult right now? Watch a Marvel movie. Good mindless fun that will give you a break. I think Thor Ragnarok is the best one of the bunch, but watch whatever you want. And as you're being transported by the big, dumb Hollywood movie, something else is happening. That core story, that eternal story of the hero's journey, is reinforcing a message that every person needs to hear at every stage of their life. That if you face your challenges sincerely, you will overcome them.
It's a valiant effort, but you never stood a chance. You see, I'm not a queen or a monster. I'm the goddess of death. What were you the god of again?
Even when you had two eyes, you'd see only half the picture.
It's too strong. Without my hammer, I can't.
Are you Thor, the god of hammers? That hammer was to help you control your power, to focus it. It's never your source of strength.
It's too late. She's already taken Asgard.
Asgard is not a place. Never was. This could be Asgard. Asgard is where our people stand. Even now, right now, those people need your help.
I'm not as strong as you.
No. You're stronger.
Tell me, brother, what were you the god of again?
This is not, strictly speaking, true. People are taken out by their problems that are too big for them, all the time. But that's not tragedy in terms of story. I think tragic stories are mostly about arrogance and hubris undoing people of great status and ability. That is, they fail because they don't face their challenges sincerely. In The Godfather, Michael Corleone is a number of things, both good and bad, but arrogance is certainly in the mix. It's amazing to me that inside every story that people love is the same basic heroic fable. So what's your favorite story that works like this? Can you think of a great story that's an exception to this rule? If you can, please leave a comment. And it wouldn't be a YouTube video without me asking you to like and subscribe, now would it? I mean, seriously, people, I'm on a journey here. I'm all alone, facing the unknown of the YouTuberverse, lost on a wide, dark sea of endlessly streaming videos, and the only thing that can save me, get me back home again, is you hitting that tiny little button that reads subscribe. No, that can't be right. But if you like what I'm doing, you know what to do.